Hi, I'm Simone Evans, and I'm the Sightings Officer for the Sea-Watch Foundation. And today I'll be providing a brief overview of what we currently know about the cetacean status and trends around the east of England. This presentation brings together our own latest data alongside valuable insights from several of our key collaborators. Over the last half century, we have had a network of observers around the British Isles contributing sightings from both casual and effort-related watchers. And nowadays, we use two main tools: our free Sea Watcher recording app, which aids people in undertaking standardized watches and identifying species. And this has had a major update earlier this year. We also have an online reporting system on the Sea Watcher website, whilst people have the option also to download printed forms and record on these. For many sites along the East Coast, particularly in Yorkshire, we have teamed up with the North Sea Wildlife Trust to promote effort-based land watches on a regular basis. All this data can be viewed through the map viewer option on our website, and here one can filter by the species, time period, observer, and region, or simply zoom into the area of interest. And by clicking on a sighting, you can see the details of the time and date, the group size, and observer. And at the back end of the database, obviously, we've got all the full details. Here is an example from Eastern England showing sightings of the minke whales. In addition, there are several environmental layers that can be overlaid. This slide shows sightings in relation to depth and in relation to seabed habitat. In this example, bottlenose dolphin sightings show close association with biogenic reefs that have been identified. Other map layers include dynamic environmental variables such as sea surface temperature, primary productivity, current speed, and mixed layer depth that reflects the stratification of water layers. There are also layers portraying various human activities such as vessel densities, fishing effort by different gear types, as well as important marine mammal areas designed by an IUCN task force and legislated marine protected areas. Focusing now on eastern England, there's 15 species occurring in the region, of which 4 are regular, so the harbour porpoise, bottlenose dolphin, white-beaked dolphin, and minke whale, whereas others are normally more occasional, such as the common dolphin and the humpback whale, or pretty rare, such as killer whales and some of the big whales. I'll focus mostly on the 4 most regular ones. First, the harbour porpoises are abundant and found throughout this region, and a possible rise in their numbers along the coast since 2010 is suggested, but more targeted monitoring is needed for confirmation on this. The species is present all year round and generally with higher numbers in spring and late summer. Now, the number of sightings dropped a lot last year compared to 24, almost to the lowest in 5 years. And during 2025, the species was recorded in every month, but there was a peak in February and July for the number of sightings. And the number of animals increased from early spring into summer as expected, as it's their peak mating season. Prior to 2010, bottlenose dolphins were seldom seen, with isolated occurrences of small groups mainly in the winter, but these maps clearly depict the species growth in both geographical distribution and seasonal occurrence. In 2025, there was again a slight increase in sightings and individual animals compared to 2024. And as you can see, a very sharp increase in number of animals compared to 23 and the previous years. Now, interestingly, the greatest number of sightings occurred in January and February, followed by October and July, with the largest group sizes also occurring in these months. The increase reflects the continued southward extension in range of animals from East Scotland, as confirmed by individual photo ID. But the increase in the winter sightings needs more monitoring to establish the cause. And this is where acoustic studies, which I will get into shortly, is very important. White-beaked dolphins and minke whales are also regular inhabitants of the region, but are uncommon in coastal waters here due to the shallow water habitat and the southern edge of their main ranges. Consequently, the relatively low number of white-beaked dolphins in this region is not surprising, but no reported sightings within the last 2 years. Minke whales have been seen over the last years, and last year nearly every month, with sightings in July and August being the highest. Now, the presence of sightings through winter implies that some of these animals are overwintering. Turning to our occasional visitors, common dolphins and humpbacks, the humpback whale sightings are becoming increasingly frequent across the North Sea, even in the southernmost areas, and they are continuing a steady 15-year upward trend all around the British Isles. Patients face a wide range of human pressures, and many of these apply to the highly industrialized southern North Sea. This matrix from ICES from 2025 shows different threats in the Greater North Sea and classify them as high, medium, or low. And we can see that the highest threats are for harbour porpoises, which include contaminants and bycatch. And contaminants was also high for coastal bottlenose dolphins and killer whales. Next few slides are courtesy of Lewis Griffin from BDMLR. This shows a total of 16 incidents in 2025, of which harbour porpoises accounting for majority, around 31%, followed by others of around 6%, like the bottlenose and the whale species. Now, some incidents involved more than one animal. 50% of the sightings occurred around Yorkshire, and then followed by 25% of Norfolk. There was a big reduction in incident reports of about 33% compared to 2024. But as he points out, this does not mean there are less cetaceans. Rather, the amount of incidents with concerns for the animals' welfare was less when they were reported. In August 2025, BDMLR and emergency services successfully rescued an entrapped male Atlantic white-sided dolphin from the mud in Yorkshire and stabilized him for release. Now, tragically, the dolphin suffered a fatal seizure during the transport to a safer floating site, and the case was passed to CSIP for investigation. Grant Ellis from the Sea Mammal Research Unit is investigating the range expansion of the East Coast bottlenose dolphins by establishing a 2-year abundance baseline. During the summer of 2025, his team conducted 19 boat surveys, resulting in 25 dolphin encounters, supplemented by 66 public submissions to the Citizen Fins Project for photo identification. Additionally, a 1-year passive acoustic monitoring study utilizing 4 hydrophones was launched in spring 2026 this year to track dolphins and porpoise occurrences between Sunderland and Bridlington. Reports and outputs will soon be available from 2 national Natural England projects. First, Poseidon, a new risk mapping tool funded through OWEC to reduce risk from offshore wind for marine mammals, seabirds, and benthic habitats. This has resulted in 9,000 monthly UK-wide density surface models between 2001 and 2024, and that's for some marine mammals and seabirds, as well as benthic habitat layers, leading to an integrated risk assessment. Methods and outputs will be available in the new Poseidon tool from midsummer. Then there's MOCA, a now completed DEFRA project, with reports coming soon and expectantly followed by a paper where analysis so far has focused on seasonal deal movements and foraging habitats of harbour porpoise and dolphin species along the northeast coast. And data is available from the 10 FPOS, and they may look for new data to add to future analysis. Here is an example of some of the visuals of the Poseidon project showing monthly medians for 20 years. And this is for minke whales and harbour porpoises. And here we have them for the white-beaked dolphin and the bottlenose dolphin. Since 2009, Orca has conducted bi-monthly ferry surveys between Newcastle and Amsterdam from April to September, utilizing teams of 4 highly trained surveyors to sample marine mammal data from the bridge. Now, these seasonal surveys are limited by daylight hours and sailing schedules, though similar monitoring trips are also conducted on 2 other routes. During the 2025 survey efforts spanning over 4,000 kilometers from DFDS vessels, Orca recorded 5 different marine mammal species and identified 144 individual animals. Now, while harbour porpoises were the most frequently sighted, the region's rich biodiversity was highlighted by sightings of various other species, including the white-beaked dolphin, minke whales, pilot whales, and more. To conclude, our 2025 data highlights some fascinating shifts in local marine mammal trends. While harbour porpoise numbers dropped to match 2020 lows, bottlenose dolphins seem to be firmly establishing themselves year-round. And as we saw a genuine spike in winter dolphin sightings that wasn't due to increased observation effort in 2025. Now, looking at human impacts, the local bycatch risks has thankfully decreased in this area with less gill netting, leaving underwater noise and contaminants as our primary concerns. Moving forward, our biggest recommendation is to address data gaps. We urgently need year-round effort-based monitoring with alternatives such as acoustics for winter conditions to track shifting seasonal pattern changes. And increased observation efforts are also required in the waters south of Flamborough Head. We thank all the different bodies with whom we collaborate around the UK for all their valuable input, particularly the wildlife trusts in this region and our many Sea-Watch volunteers. Thank you.
Hello, apologies I could not present this in person, but I'm going to talk about seals for the next few minutes. So the East Main region holds both species of seals we find here in the UK, the grey seal and the harbour or common seal. And I'm going to present the overall trends in abundance and also what's been going on in 2025 with some updates on ongoing research from the region. I will start with population trends to provide some context. The Sea Mammal Research Unit, SMRU, at the University of St Andrews conducts and collates research to inform scientific advice on matters relating to the management of seal populations. This fulfills a legal requirement under the Conservation of Seals Act. For this purpose, the UK is split into seal monitoring units, SMUs, and the EASME is in the South East England SMU, which is shown in the top right corner in orange. The data shown here was collected by SMRU and our partners shown on the right. South East England has always been a stronghold for harbour seals, hosting over 10% of the UK total. And the population has sustained increases punctuated by drops in abundance associated with Phocine distemper virus (PDV) outbreaks in 1988 and 2002. This figure shows the trends in August counts, a period encompassing the annual moult. The SMU as a whole is shown in red, but there's a longer time series for the SAC, which hosts the majority of harbour seals in the SMU. But you can see that over the last few years, abundance has dropped. It's actually 20 to 25% lower than in 2018. And the latest counts don't indicate any recovery of that. The area also hosts a rapidly increasing number of grey seals, especially during the summer, which is the key foraging season for grey seals. Indeed, it now holds over a quarter of the UK total and around a fifth of pup production, so the number of pups born per year in the UK. Due to difficulties with the ground counting the now huge colonies on the East Coast, SMRU cover these colonies by aerial survey every 2 to 3 years. However, ground surveys are still conducted at some colonies, and in 2004, a year for which no aerial surveys were conducted, there was indications of drops of abundance at 2 key colonies. It was difficult to tell if this was an SMU-wide issue, as Blakeney, which hosts about half of the pup production for the SMU, was not surveyed. However, pup production estimates at these ground colonies indicated that 2025 abundances were higher than in 2024. There was an SMU-wide survey conducted in 2025 and images are still being processed for this. Many thanks to BDMLR for providing these slides and I think they're there today to answer questions on them. Critically, as well as giving insights into patterns in causes of mortality at a population level, such call-out data gives information in terms of welfare issues for seals. And cases continued to rise in 2025 compared to 2024 in almost all areas. There was increased call-outs for grey seals, which would be expected given their rise in population, but there was also large increases in the call-outs for harbour seals, despite no indication of increase in population, which is perhaps more concerning. Natural England have recently completed their harbour seal condition assessment for the Wash and North Norfolk Coast SAC, and the result of this was that the population is unfavourable declining. Finally, I just wanted to highlight some recent publications that have come out in the last year, including a paper about avian influenza in grey seals at Blakeney in early 2025, which we reported on at the EASME last year. There's also updated predicted at-sea distributions of grey and harbour seals, and this includes downloadable predictions emanating from each seal monitoring unit and SAC. And here's an example for harbour seals from the SAC in the Wash. Finally, a paper using seal tracking data to look at their behaviour and its association with environmental covariance. So to conclude, in 2025, there was no indication that the apparent drop in grey seal pup production at some colonies in 2024 had continued. There was also no indication of harbour seal population recovery. It wasn't an abnormal year for strandings, but harbour seal call-outs were higher despite the stable population. 2026 will see continued seal population monitoring, investigation into the lack of harbour seal population recovery, and investigation with the help of citizen science into levels of grey seal predation of other marine mammals, as discussed at the previous EAST meeting. Thank you.